Elections are happening in 4 different Democratic states in the Northeast, and a whole lot has just happened in a very short amount of time, including astroturfing, lawsuits, and now bomb threats. Before I start to explain everything that's going on, please, if you enjoy what you hear in this video, then like and subscribe to help build this kingdom. First things first, let me go over some information so that we're all on the same page. Today is November 4th, 2025. The biggest election in New York State currently is the mayoral, among numerous others. In New Jersey, you have the gubernatorial, or governor's race, along with the General Assembly, among, again, many others. Virginia also has a governor's race, as well as the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, and more municipal ones. And in Pennsylvania, you have a vote for retention of Supreme Court justices. Okay? Okay, now that we're all on the same page, let's focus on the corruption going from one state to the next. Starting with Virginia, you have Spanberger, who is currently leading over Winsome, although it is not a guaranteed win. And what's happened out in Virginia is a bomb threat at the Reagan National Airport. Now, admittedly, this doesn't have a great deal of impact on the state in general when it comes to this election. However, it's still something that's popped up today, so it has to be reported on. Okay, last minute edit. So Jay Jones, the guy whose text messages came out a little while ago talking about how he wanted to see his opponent's children die so that he could get the policies he wanted enacted, was just recorded nearly kicking a dog. So we know who Hassan Piker would vote for. Now moving on, there's Pennsylvania, where numerous ballot machines have all failed, coincidentally, in many Republican counties and areas. It's being reported that Cumberland County and Chester County didn't even have their machines up until almost at 8 a.m. this morning. So independent voters are being disenfranchised throughout Pennsylvania in order to retain the 3 Democratic Supreme Court justices. And the Democrats currently hold a 5-2 lead. So unless all 3 are removed, the Democrats will maintain power in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Moving on, we have New Jersey, and New Jersey is a very close race that's actually within the margin of error. The Democrat, Mickey Sherrill, currently leads over Republican Jack Ciatrelli. And wouldn't you know, there have been numerous bomb threats across the state, all of which are Republican counties, of course. Bergen, Essex, Mercer, Middlesex, Monmouth, Ocean, and Passaic have all undergone numerous bomb threats, all of which have been sent by email, but thankfully, according to this brief report from earlier this morning, it doesn't appear that any of them were valid.
Governor Mark Meredith is live in Montclair with the latest for us. Mark.
Ainsley, Brian, and Lawrence, good morning once again, friends. Some brand new information coming into our newsroom that we've learned that these threats were communicated electronically via email to at least 7 different counties across the Garden State. These threats certainly being taken seriously, and out of abundance of caution, some of the polling places were temporarily either closed or suspended as they moved voters to different locations. And then as they were doing those searches, then either able to reopen some of the facilities. We got a statement from the Attorney General of New Jersey. I want to put it up on the screen for you. It says, law enforcement officers have responded at each affected polling place. Some of these polling locations have already reopened to the public.
Yeah, crazy how all of these threats and all of this corruption tends to flow in one direction. Now, lastly, we come to New York, in which there are 3 major players in the mayoral race. Those being both of the Democrats Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani, and of course the Republican Curtis Sliwa. And ironically, on the surface, New York is the one that has the least amount of crap going on. This isn't to say it's a clean election, obviously it's not, because all of the problems are internal. This is all best exemplified by this New York ballot. It took me a moment to research a couple things because some of this information was obviously confusing. So if you're looking at this information and wondering what the hell is this, let me go over a couple details. First and foremost, there is no ID required because New York does not have any voter ID laws. In the state of New York, you can walk straight up to somebody who offers a ballot and tell them a name and an address. They will give you a ballot, you put down who you're voting for, and then you leave. Obviously, this is what the Democrats want because without illegals, they lose their power, of course. And even if this was all checked against the voter rolls, those haven't really been cleaned up, so it's just a fucking mess. Moving on, you'll notice that a bunch of these names are repeated on this ballot. This is because in New York, the party itself endorses the candidate. So it creates an unnecessary mess because now you have two parties that voted for Sliwa and Mamdani respectfully, but then independents, all of which should be more than just independents, are all wrapped into one for Andrew Cuomo. This is stupid in every possible way because it only serves to confuse people who are going there to vote. On top of this, these are actually old ballots that haven't been updated properly because Eric Adams, who dropped out of the race earlier this year, is still on the ballot, which goes to tell you the logistical problems behind New York City's elections. And this is a very minor issue, to be fair, but it's still an issue nonetheless, and Andrew Cuomo is way over here in the bottom right instead of being directly under Mamdani. So yeah, all four of these states are currently undergoing some level of corruption or nonsense that's affecting the elections today. Now, all of that said, if we were to look at the prediction markets, everything looks pretty bleak. Almost universally, all of the money says that somehow the Democrats are all going to win across the board. Now, I'm not going to take any of this at face value because we've seen both the markets and the polls be completely wrong. Again, I will present to you the 2024 election in which Trump won in a landslide. So I'm not going to automatically go with what all of these polls, which are taking a much larger pie and trying to gauge on what other people think is going to happen at face value. And that's the key detail. The polymarket view is way bigger than just the individual states. In fact, if we were to cut everything down to more of a micro scale and look at the state in itself, we can look at Kalshi, which is apparently saying that New Yorkers are going to vote in favor of Cuomo. So on a whim, I decided to update information real quick because I knew there was going to be another last-minute edit, and sure enough, here it is. Now, let me be clear, I don't know if this actually means anything. This could be completely wrong for all I know, but apparently somebody just dropped $200,000 on Cuomo to win. So either this is a desperate Hail Mary, or somebody knows information that we don't. Regardless, there is additional information that really shows that maybe there's a bigger divide here amongst Democrats than many people think. Everyone with enough brain cells to calculate math understands that the Democrats are not a unified party. They've marched in lockstep before, however, with something like this, it proves just how separated they are. Mamdani is a hardcore communist, much more representative of the newer, younger crowd coming up into politics. Cuomo, on the other hand, is more representative of the current Democrat old guard, like Pelosi, Schumer, Nadler. And while I didn't get around to it then, I will get around to it now. There has been a major uptick in AstroTurfed articles talking about how Mamdani's entire campaign has just spontaneously collapsed. Mamdani's entire shtick is about lying so that he can get in power, and as he's a Muslim, he practices taqiyya so that he can get into power and he can then subvert things from the inside. Mamdani has been caught in numerous lies, the most infamous of which was his claim that his aunt, who was not actually living here around the time of 9/11, was actually living in Tunisia, and then he claimed it was actually his cousin he meant. So it's all bullshit. However, he's now currently facing a lawsuit for all of the foreign funds that went to his campaign. Campaign funds, which I mentioned under U.S. Law 52 U.S.C. 30121, are illegal. So it appears that even in this mayoral race, there's a very good chance that Mamdani might not necessarily be able to become mayor because that law might be used against him to kick him out of the race. And that result could either give Andrew Cuomo the win by default, or it could go to a new election in which it would come down to Cuomo and Sliwa. Either which way, it appears that the Democrats are very split and the old guard do not want Mamdani to necessarily win. Hell, this is best exemplified by two people. Barack Obama has not endorsed Mamdani, and Donald Trump has endorsed Cuomo. Enemy of my enemy, I suppose, but regardless, we have no idea what's going to happen, and we won't know for at least a few days or weeks or months depending on how these Democrat states run. I pray Republicans win because we desperately need it, and my goodness, how funny would it be if the Democratic stronghold of the Northeast starts to break even more. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, then please Like, share, comment, and subscribe to help build this kingdom. Check out my main channel, Albeleo, for movie reviews and discussions. Head to my tertiary channel, Balmorian Galaxy, for BattleTech and MechWarrior. And if you feel so inclined, then please donate to me on Subscribestar so I can produce more content for all of you. I thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.